This is a quick look at the Teacher Plus Gradebook. When you first log in, you're going to want to find your courses and class lists. If you look under Gradebooks tab, go across here, you'll see all my courses are listed. All you have to do is click on the course you want to view, and it will populate below, and you'll see the names of all the students. You can get a lot of data out of this particular tool. If you want to look at any demographics on any students, you just pretty much double click on their name and you're going to get a pop-up window. You'll see email addresses, you can get some scores, attendance totals, things like that are all going to be available in the demographics window. If you have certain demographics that you want to see on a regular basis, you can actually create a column down through here. So if I go to View, I want to add demographics to these columns. And there's a couple very important demographics that you might want to use. I like to have the informal name present, and I also like to know what the IEP is. These IEPs are now going to be loaded up into this tool this year, so you'll be able to view the IEP at any time. So I press OK, and I'll see what populates on the side. So right now I'm getting the IEP and the informal name showing down through here. When the IEP is populated, there will be a symbol here letting you know that the IEP is in the system. Those should be coming soon. There's a couple other ways to add things through this particular area. If I right click, I can actually open up a progress report, get that demographic information. I can add a private memo about a student, and when I do, there's a little green dot that'll show up by their name. I can unhide certain things that are in there that are in there by default. For example, if I want to see attendance totals, how many absences per student, and leave it open so I can keep track of it, which is not a bad idea. Just click on ABS, and now I have absence totals going all the way down the side. So there's a lot of customizations that can happen here, and if I set up something that I use all the time, I can go up to where it says name only, and I could actually set up a template that I would always go to. And as you see, I had set one up so I could see IEPs on a regular basis, or turn it off if I didn't want to see them. So that deals with just what you can actually view right off the bat. In the view function, you'll also see there's a button called exams, and this is where we post the midterm exam and the final exam. If you want to be able to see them in your gradebook, you have to turn them on, assign a total number of points, and you'll see that the exam will now be shown in a column. While that's populating, you can look up here. As we learn to add different types of assignments, you will see that how many of those assignments are actually counted in the average. How many of these assignments are going to be shared on the portals, how many are actually hidden. In here, you'll see that we have an exam, and because this red circle's here, it means it's hidden. It's basically not going to be shown in the portals. It'll only be shown in this particular gradebook. If I want to add another column, it's just like a spreadsheet. So go over to plus column, click on it, and you get a pop-up. History test is the name of my assignment. I'm going to assign it only to this class. If I wanted to assign the same assignment to several different sections, I could do that and click on it, and it would move the same test assignment to all the different gradebooks. I could give it a description, and I could actually give it a category. So I put on test. Please note that you can actually weight categories as well, and that will be set up in the grading function up top here. I have the date of when it's due, and then down below here it says counting averages. That means that this column will actually be counted in the average final grade, so you probably want to check that. If you have other data that you don't want to have average, just turn it off. Over here is the shared public column, and as I said before, you can choose whether or not to show this particular assignment in the student portal and parent portal. I left it as unchecked as the default, so you have to decide whether or not you want to show that or not. When I press OK, I'm going to get a warning message after I put in my points. Oops. I get a warning message that says this column is private and will count in averages. So I say, yep, that's exactly what I wanted. I press continue, and this new column will be created where I can start entering my grades. You can see it goes down through here, and again you see the red button that says that this column is hidden. So I want to give a grade for this history test. 90, and I can go all the way down and just add my grades. You'll notice that it populates an average and then gives me a letter grade. I can also type in a letter grade if I wanted to, and it will automatically convert to a number and then back to a letter again. This is a rounding process, and if you want to see how these all get rounded out, you can take a look at the grading scales up top. When I'm grading papers that are not necessarily in alphabetical order, I might want to do what's called a quick entry. So if I click on quick entry, all I need to do is click 2 letters of the person's last name and the cursor will automatically jump to it. So I typed in MO for Maury, and now I'm down here and I can start adding my grades. So it speeds it up. The whole process of entering grades is pretty quick. If I build this test and I really don't want to use it anymore, I can actually go in here and you can see that there's other drop downs. So always try right clicks where you can, see what pops up. So in here you got a current column. I want to delete it. Yep, and so I delete it. You'll see before that deletes that I had 1 assignment counting in averages out of a total of 1 assignments, and I wasn't sharing any. I was sharing nothing out of 1 because I had made it private before. So basically that's gone. If I want to hide the exam thing, again, think about it logically. You want to view something, so go up to exams and just hide it by clicking that toggle. Now it's going to be hidden. If you use category weights, you might consider showing subtotals for categories if you like, or if you want to see just the subtotal of a student's test average, you can just view the category totals for that. There's some really nice tools up top here that you can test out. So that's pretty much entering the grades. A couple things to think about. When you are in your ABC class, make sure you are set to first marking period at the beginning of the school year. If you go to second marking period, but we're still in the calendar where the first marking period was, this is going to turn red and say, you know, you're viewing the second marking period, but we're in the first. That is probably a warning sign for your ABC classes. But know that our D&E or year-longs need to be in the second marking period and the fourth marking period. If you put in grades and assignments inside the second marking period, they will populate into the averages as needed. That means from the time that your ABCs begin, first marking period and the second marking period, all that gets combined for our D&Es in the second marking period. So if that confuses you, I'm not surprised. Confuses me. Just know that D&Es go in the second marking period, and I'll leave it at that. Now, attendance. 2 different ways to put in attendance. Right now I'm hiding my attendance columns. The only thing I'm seeing here is an absence total. If I click on ATT, which means attendance, I will be able to see office attendance coming down this column and class attendance, which would be my attendance, coming down here. All I need to do in someone's absence is just click in that particular column. You can see again AU for absence unexcused. I can do the same thing all the way down. I can put in a W if I click twice. That means waived. Departmental approval is needed for that. You got a tardy excused. That's they show up a little bit late with a pass. And then, yeah, I was tardy, but I was more than half the class, so I really wasn't there for the class, so that would be there. Most of the time you have to reconcile tardies, because when the kid shows up late without a pass, you might have marked them absence unexcused. They show up with a pass. You got to go back to the grade book at a later date and change it to probably tardy excused if they have a pass. Okay. So once that's in place, all I have to do is press submit. When I press submit, it's going to say that this particular class, the attendance has been taken, and what would happen is it gets a green circle will go around it. I took attendance earlier today on this instrumental class, and so it has a green circle on it that says that I have submitted my attendance. So by the end of the day, that green circle would be on each one of your classes going across. If you happen not to see the green circles, it means you didn't submit the attendance. And when you don't do that, you probably get on the nasty list. So you want to make sure you get your attendance done on a regular basis. With that said, doing it at the beginning of class is probably your best bet, and doing it, get kind of in a habit of doing it. If you find that you're worried because you're projecting something at the beginning of class and you're on the same computer, you can use a different module of the attendance to kind of hide things if you like. and there's a button up top here called Attendance. And that attendance, when I click on it, my computer's slowing down here, it's going to load up the attendance module in a view that allows me to see more than one day. So I can go to this weekly view. And once I'm in the weekly view, you can see that I submitted attendance for this class already, and I didn't mark anything, but I'd see all my codes going down through here. What's nice about this view is I can go back, and it's not a bad view to use on a regular basis, because if you marked an AU the day before, you want to be able to say to the student, where were you? I don't have any office attendance saying that you were excused. What's going on? So you have an easier way of reconciling it. You can also, over the side here, see the totals of absence and tardies for that student, and you can track how many kids were out or tardy within a class down below. So there's a lot of data here. If you need to go back in time, you can use these buttons and navigate your way through the calendar. Times you'd need to do that, maybe a student started making up work, was seeing a tutor, and they had a lot of absences, and you say, okay, I can probably waive 2 of your absences. You might want to go back in time, and then you could change your absence to waive, which would then change your total numbers. So not a bad window to use, a little bit better than what we had last year. So I can just say pretty much I'm done and I'm out of this window. So we have the attendance, and like I said, you can also see the totals going through here. This button is for skills assessment, which we're not going to use just yet. There's also a seating chart that can be used, and this is probably helpful if you have a sub, and you can actually take names and drag them in and actually do a whole seating plan. The teacher's located here, and you can actually set this up. So this thing is still in development, and I think we'll see some changes to that as they go along. So I'm going to go back to the gradebook. Down here you see this little paper thing, okay? And this was hidden before. If it was hidden and you don't see it, remember you got to right click, and you could start looking for certain types of information and not hide it. Right now you can see it says hide. Before it was hidden. I'm going to hide it again just so to see how we can go find it if you had it hidden. Unhide narrative. Pretty straightforward. So here's the narrative, and that's just what it is. It's where we put our comments. And I can say I'm going to do my comments for first marking period for Kiana, and I type in my comment down here, and I can move on to the next student by clicking onto this button. It'll actually start scrolling through, and it should save these as you go through. So you can stay in one particular window and keep adding comments as you go. And we will let you know where they need to be populated as we go through the term. Most likely, interims are going to always have to be erased and written over. The grade here is going to populate by itself from whatever grade is in your grade book. So you'll be able to see how they're doing as you're actually writing the narrative comment. So that's attendance. Up top here we have reports, and I can actually create Excel sheets of a lot of different things and get a class list if I wanted to. There's class reports where I can show missing work, failing work, that sort of stuff, and post that or email it out as needed. And lastly, I can do really nice progress reports, which you might want to test this out. It's an interesting way to send information back and forth to parents. In the grading tab, you'll see that I can add and weight categories here. I can see grade skills, or I can add what are called score annotations, and that means whatever I had for an exam or test, I can put a little comment inside each one of these particular boxes. So that's a nice little feature as well. These tools you probably won't use that often. You can remove columns, and you can actually have it recalculated if need be. At the end of the term, you're probably going to want to hit submit once your grades are ready, and this will turn into a submitted button. Basically tells the office that you are ready to go because you have submitted your grades. Lastly, go up to settings. You can actually do some customizations of your own look of the gradebook interface by setting up some warnings. If you put in too many points, it'll give you a warning like you don't want to give them 110 points when it's only worth 100. You can change the font color, drop students, and what have you. You can say how it's going to open up. So you can play with these settings if you want to customize the gradebook ever so slightly as you're going through this. So that's the gradebook in a nutshell. I think you'll find it to be relatively easy to use. If you do have problems, don't hesitate to ask any one of us for help. Best of luck.